Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we've got a stack of sources that feel like they're pulling from opposite ends of history.
They really are. On one hand, you have the absolute cutting edge of technological speculation.
Right, 21st century philosophy.
And on the other, you have these incredibly ancient foundational questions of theology.
This isn't just a simple comparison. It feels more like we're setting up an intellectual collision course.
I think that's the perfect way to put it. We are doing a really exhaustive deep dive into, well, the very nature of existence.
No small topic for today, then.
Not at all. And the core question our sources are asking is, what if the modern simulation hypothesis?
The idea that we're all living inside some massive computer program.
Exactly. What if that's just the new language we've invented to describe a cosmological structure that, frankly, theologians have been talking about for thousands of years?
Okay, let's just dive right into that, because that starting premise is it's incredibly high stakes. I mean, we're living in this moment where the line between what's real and what's virtual is just dissolving.
It's getting blurrier every single day.
You've got AI, you have augmented reality that feels more and more seamless. And this whole technological trajectory has led some very smart people. Visionaries, like Elon Musk, probably the most famous example, to just state it plainly. He said, the probability that we are not in base reality.
The original unsimulated universe.
Right. He said the chance of that is 1 in a billion's chance.
And that phrase, 1 in a billion's chance, it's such a potent modern provocation, like you said. It really forces you, the listener, to stop and confront this possibility that the world you see, the world you touch, is an elaborate construct.
A temporary state.
It's a philosophical lever, really. It pulls us out of our day-to-day complacency. But what our sources today are pointing to is this unexpected echo. The idea of a temporary, designed, pre-recorded testing ground is conceptually ancient.
Exactly. The theologians of the past, they didn't have supercomputers or, GPUs.
No concept of code in that sense.
But they absolutely understood the architecture of a constructed universe. One with ultimate rules, with limits, and, critically, a complete data log of every single action.
So that's our mission for this deep dive. It's ambitious. We're going to put the modern philosophical rigor of someone like Nick Bostrom, his simulation argument, and place it right next to these deep theological concepts.
Specifically Qadar, or divine destiny.
And the preserved tablet, the Lawh al-Mahfuz. We're going to compare the source code of the future with what's been called the ultimate divine blueprint.
And see if the architects, whether you call them advanced programmers or a divine creator, are basically operating on the same fundamental principles.
Are they speaking the same language, just in different eras?
This sounds like a 40-minute journey through destiny, quantum physics, and cosmic code. So let's start where the conversation is today in science and philosophy. We are diving into segment 1, the scientific argument living inside the algorithm.
And that means we have to start with the foundational text. The 2003 paper from philosopher Nick Bostrom, Are You Living in a Computer Simulation?
Right. And it's so important to understand that Bostrom's argument isn't based on, seeing a cat walk by twice or some glitch in the Matrix.
Not at all. It's not about anecdotal evidence. It's based entirely on statistics and probability, which are derived from projecting technology into the far future.
So to really get our heads around it, we need to unpack the core logic. He calls it a trilemma, right? 3 propositions.
Exactly, a trilemma, and the whole power of the argument is that one of these 3 propositions must be true.
Okay, so what's the first pillar? Proposition 1.
P1 is the idea that the fraction of human-level civilizations that reach a post-human stage is very close to 0.
What does post-human even mean in this context?
Think of it as a civilization with truly immense, almost unimaginable computing power, godlike technological maturity.
Okay. So P1 is saying that civilizations just don't get there.
Right. They destroy themselves first. Nuclear war, an engineered pandemic, runaway AI, climate collapse, you name it. It's the great filter argument. We just don't make it.
That's dark. But okay, plausible. What's P2?
P2 says that the fraction of post-human civilizations that are actually interested in running ancestor simulations is very close to 0.
So even if we do survive, even if we get this godlike computing power, we just decide not to run simulations of our past.
Maybe. Maybe it's for ethical reasons. I mean, is it right to create trillions of simulated conscious beings who can suffer?
A good point.
Or maybe it's just a resource issue. Or maybe they're just not interested. They have better things to do than rewatch their own history.
So if we manage to survive, meaning P1 is false, but we decide not to run the simulations, then P2 would be true, and we're almost certainly in base reality.
Precisely. Which leaves us with the third one, P3.
And this is the statistical kicker.
This is the one. P3 states we are almost certainly living in a computer simulation.
And the logic is, if the first two are false.
If civilizations do survive to a post-human stage, and they do decide to run ancestor simulations...
They wouldn't just run one or two.
Of course not. Why would they? They'd run vast numbers, billions, trillions, maybe more, to study their history, to run different social experiments, maybe just as entertainment.
And at that point, the sheer numbers just take over.
The numbers game is everything. You have one single base reality, the original timeline, and potentially trillions upon trillions of simulated realities with simulated consciousnesses inside them.
So the statistical probability of any one consciousness, you or me, being in that single original reality becomes mathematically tiny.
Negligible. A 1 in billions chance, just like Musk said. It's an almost inescapable mathematical trap as long as you accept the initial premises about future technology.
So it's not about finding proof today. It's about the logical consequence of what technology might one day be capable of.
Exactly. It's a prediction about the consequences of ultimate technological maturity.
Okay, so if we're entertaining that, if we accept this statistical likelihood for a moment, then you start looking for clues, for anomalies, things that look more like code than nature.
And this is where the source material points us directly to the fundamental nature of physics itself.
It's not just that the universe is mathematical. It seems to be mathematically constrained.
Indeed. Everything is governed by these precise, elegant, unvarying equations. Newton, Einstein, quantum mechanics. It's all math. For a system this ridiculously complex to be stable, it needs what look like, well, hard-coded constants.
So we're talking about things like the gravitational constant, G, or the mass of an electron, things that just are a certain value.
And not just any value. This brings up the concept of fine-tuning. The actual numerical values of these constants are, frankly, suspicious.
How so?
Well, if you tweak them even slightly, the whole universe would fall apart. If the strong nuclear force were just a tiny bit weaker, atoms wouldn't hold together. A little bit stronger, and the universe would have been nothing but hydrogen.
No stars, no planets, no chemistry.
Nothing. And take the cosmological constant, the energy density of empty space. If it were even infinitesimally larger, the universe would have expanded so fast that matter would have never clumped together to form. Well, us.
It looks designed, calibrated, like a programmer setting the parameters of the game to make sure it's actually playable.
It looks exactly like that. These constants, and especially something like the speed of light, which is this absolute unbreakable speed limit.
A ceiling on how fast anything, including information, can travel.
It behaves exactly like a hard-coded limit in a program. It defines the rules of the environment, and, more importantly, it keeps the simulation stable. It prevents system crashes.
The consistency is the key. Okay, but this is where it gets really, really weird, where this theory connects to the world of the quantum. The extremely small.
The observer effect.
The observer effect.
Yeah.
The idea that reality literally changes based on whether or not we're looking at it. This is maybe the most compelling parallel to how a computer would manage resources.
People call it lazy rendering applied to cosmology. I mean, think about it. To run a simulation the size of our universe, down to every single subatomic particle at all times, the processing power required is astronomical.
Even for a post-human civilization.
Even for them, they would have to find efficiencies. They couldn't afford to render every unobserved corner of the universe in perfect detail all at once.
So it's like in a video game. If I'm playing some huge open world game, the mountains way off in the distance are just, they're a low-resolution texture.
Yeah, a placeholder.
But as I get closer, the system starts rendering the trees, the rocks, the grass. It only puts processing power where the player is actually looking.
And physics seems to work in a way that is, as our sources say, eerily similar. Take the famous double-slit experiment.
Okay, let's walk through that.
You fire particles, like electrons, at a barrier with 2 slits in it. When you are not monitoring which slit they go through,
When you're not looking.
they behave like a wave. They seem to go through both slits at the same time and create an interference pattern on the other side. They exist in a cloud of probability, a wave function.
The instant you put a detector by the slits to see which one the electron actually goes through.
Everything changes. The wave function collapses. The electron stops acting like a wave and behaves like a solid particle. It picks one slit and one slit only. The interference pattern vanishes.
The act of observation forces reality to commit. to render a specific state.
It's the ultimate cosmic optimization. The system only bothers to calculate and render the definite resource-intensive physical reality when an observer, a consciousness, is interacting with it. The rest of the time, the unobserved universe just exists as a low-power, probabilistic background state.
Saving untold petaflops of energy.
It's an incredibly efficient design, and it does imply a creator, a programmer, or a deity who really values optimization.
Now, before we pivot away from the modern argument, we should probably touch on the anecdotal side of things. People often report, glitches.
Right. Moments of intense déjà vu, profound coincidences that feel a bit too perfect.
The feeling that life is scripted.
And from a simulation perspective, those experiences could be the human mind just bumping up against the system's limits. Maybe it's a tiny lag in the rendering engine, a server delay, or just a pattern in the universe's random number generator that's a little too repetitive.
It's not scientific proof, of course.
Not at all. Yeah. But it's a common psychological response to living in an environment that, when you look at it closely, does feel deeply inherently structured.
Okay, so that really establishes the modern framework. A universe governed by what looks like rigorous, optimized, and limiting code. Now, let's travel back. Way back.
We're jumping from the high-tech lab to the foundational cosmology of ancient theology.
Specifically, we're going to talk about the preserved tablet, or Lawh, al-Mahfuz, in Islamic tradition. And this is to show that this whole idea of a designed, non-ultimate reality existed long before we ever conceived of a computer.
And the jump is actually quite smooth, philosophically, because the idea of a fixed, pre-recorded reality is central to any concept of an all-knowing creator. The Lawh al-Mahfuz is, conceptually, the perfect predecessor to a master database or the final source code of existence.
So for the listener, let's define that very clearly. What exactly is the preserved tablet?
The source material describes it as the master book. It's a celestial tablet held by the creator, which contains the complete and definitive record of absolutely everything. Everything that has happened, is happening, and ever will happen, from the first moment of creation to the very last day. And critically, this record was written before the universe was even created.
That distinction is so important. It's not a live document being updated as we go along.
No, it's a complete, finished, immutable file that exists outside of the timeline we're experiencing.
It establishes the creator's knowledge as total and eternal. The simulation hypothesis might imagine programmers writing code within time, but this concept puts the source code completely outside of time and space.
It is the ultimate blueprint, pre-existent and absolute.
Which brings us to the mechanism of creation itself. If the Lawh al-Mahfuz is the code, how is that code executed? And this is where we find that theological command, Kun Faya Kun.
And it is.
It's such a powerful phrase.
It translates the act of creation into something very similar to a computational execution. I mean, imagine a programmer spends years writing millions of lines of code for a complex program. But when they're done, they just type one command line, hit enter.
And the entire system, the whole program, just springs into existence. Instantly.
That's the analogy. The entire universe, with all of its billions of years of what looks like slow, gradual evolution to us. From the architect's perspective, it's the immediate result of a single command. The delay we perceive is just the playback speed inside the program.
So that Faya Kun, the "and it is," really speaks to the absolute power of the creator to manifest a complex reality from pure information.
It bypasses any need for assembly. The reality just executes exactly as written in the master book.
And just as Bostrom's theory suggests our physical world is just a temporary virtual structure, the Quran often describes this life in very similar, almost dismissive terms.
Yes. The description of this worldly life is absolutely central to the idea that it's a test environment. It's often called play and amusement. La wa la wa.
So a distraction.
And more than that, it's called gurur, which means illusion or even deception, something that actively misleads you.
So it's not just that the world is temporary. It's that it's a sophisticated, high-fidelity distraction that is specifically designed to make you forget about the ultimate base reality.
Precisely. If this life were the be-all and end-all, the sacred texts would celebrate its permanence. But they don't. They consistently warn you not to get too invested in the scenery of the simulation.
Because it's fleeting by design.
And its purpose is to test your focus, which brings us to what you call the avatar concept. This provides, I think, the cleanest one-to-one parallel between theology and a simulation.
The idea that our bodies are not our true selves.
Exactly. Our sources confirm this view. This current reality and our physical bodies are temporary vessels. They are the avatar, the real player, the consciousness, the soul that belongs to a separate, higher reality, the true base reality.
So I'm playing the most immersive VR game ever. My avatar in the game can get rich, it can build things, it can even die. But when I take the headset off,
the real you is sitting in the chair, totally unharmed.
Unchanged by those digital wins and losses. The only thing that I actually carry out of the game is the experience and the data log of my choices.
That is the perfect analogy. The soul is the player, residing in base reality, interacting with this test environment through the vehicle of the body. When the game ends at the moment of death, the avatar, the body, it just dissolves back into the system's raw material.
But the player logs out.
The soul logs out, and it brings the record of its actions, its choices, its character development with it.
This is the perfect point to start the great synthesis. This is segment 3, where we directly align the figures and functions of both models. Let's start at the top. The architects.
The programmer on one side, the creator, al-Khaliq, on the other. The fundamental link between them is their status. They both exist outside of the system they created.
They are transcendent. They're not bound by their own rules.
Exactly. The programmer isn't subject to the laws of physics they wrote into their code. They're not limited by the simulation's speed of light or its linear flow of time. They set the parameters and then they watch it run.
Which means the programmer, or the creator, isn't dependent on the system for their own existence. The universe runs on their power, not the other way around.
And that solves a lot of philosophical problems. If the creator were inside the system, they'd be subject to its limits, which would mean they aren't the ultimate source. This transcendence, being outside of time and space, is what makes omniscience and omnipotence possible.
And the code itself. We talked about the constants.
The code maps directly onto the laws of physics. The rigid, unchanging rules of thermodynamics, gravity, electromagnetism, all the things we just discussed. This is the code written by the creator to maintain order.
It's the physics engine. It has to be consistent so that the game is fair.
If gravity worked differently on Tuesdays, meaningful choice would be impossible. Life couldn't exist. So consistency is actually proof of a structured, intelligent design.
Okay, this synthesis it's almost too neat. It feels perfect. But it runs straight into the biggest philosophical wall there is in both systems.
The ancient paradox.
The tension between destiny, Qadar, and free will. If every event is pre-recorded in the preserved tablet or hard-coded in the algorithm, how can our choices be real? How can we be held accountable?
This is the critical intersection. This is where the whole thing either falls apart or becomes truly profound. Because if the database has a complete, immutable record of all future events, it absolutely seems to imply determinism.
They were just actors reading lines from a script that's already been written.
And if that's true, then moral accountability is meaningless. Why would the programmer hold the avatar responsible for running code that was pre-written into its core?
So this is the paradox we have to resolve. And the sources point to this open-world video game analogy.
The analogy is essential, but we have to be precise about how we use it. So let's break it down again. How does destiny fit into the open-world game?
Okay, so destiny, or Qadar, is the fixed structure.
It's everything the developers created beforehand. The size of the map, the mountains you can't climb over, the physics engine, and, critically, the range of possible endings. The boundary conditions are fixed.
I can't just decide to fly in a game that has no flying mechanic. The fundamental rules are set.
Right, and your free will is you, the player, making choices in real time within those boundaries. You are free to follow the main quest, or to ignore it completely and just go around stealing cars. The environment is fixed, but your moment-to-moment decisions are your own.
But wait, let me push back on that, because this is what a critic would say. Even in an open-world game, it's still deterministic at some level. The character I choose might have a predisposition, a nature. Is our inherent disposition also part of destiny?
That is a fantastic and crucial challenge to the simple version of the analogy, and the theological answer has to shift the focus. It moves from the nature of the avatar, your body, your genetics, to the nature of the soul, the player.
So my body and its tendencies might be part of the character build I'm given.
But the soul, the consciousness, is described as being given something more fundamental, a moral compass, the inherent ability to distinguish right from wrong and the capacity to choose between them. This capacity for genuine choice, ikhtiar, is what makes the test meaningful.
So the physical world and my own predispositions might be part of the fixed code of destiny.
Yeah.
But the actual choice-making mechanism is located in the soul, which is my connection back to base reality.
Exactly. The human is given reason, the ability to weigh consequences. That makes the choices truly volitional. Destiny provides the landscape for the test, but free will is the engine of the test itself. The consequence of your choice is also written, but the choice itself is your responsibility.
That distinction is everything. But it still leaves the absolute trickiest part. How can the creator know everything I'm going to do, every choice recorded in the Lawh al-Mahfuz, without making me do it?
And this can only be resolved by remembering the nature of the architect. The fact that the creator is transcendent, existing outside of time.
For us, inside the simulation, time is a straight line. Past, present, future. We're on a train, moving forward one frame at a time.
We are confined to that playback. But the creator isn't on the train. The creator is outside, watching the entire track from the first station to the last, all at once.
The whole timeline is visible simultaneously.
From the creator's perspective, the Big Bang, this conversation right now, and the end of the universe, it's all one single, complete, static image. A finished canvas.
So the record in the preserved tablet isn't a script that forces the future. It's a description of a reality that, from an eternal perspective, has already happened.
It's observational knowledge, not compulsory knowledge. It's the difference between forcing a runner to win a race and watching a replay of a race you already know the outcome of. Your knowledge doesn't compel the runner's actions. Their choices were their own. They're simply already recorded.
That perspective shift changes everything. It preserves accountability. If the creator forced the choice, there's no test. The knowledge exists because the choice was always a definitive fact. We just experience it sequentially.
And now we've established the architecture, we've dealt with the deepest philosophical hurdle. We have to move to segment 4. Why does any of this matter? What is the objective of the game?
Right. This is where it becomes practical. We move from the abstract to the immediate. If this is all a constructed reality, a test environment, what is the objective for you, the user? What are you supposed to be doing?
In any game, the objective is usually to collect something. Points, gold, experience.
A high score.
And the theological view provides the ultimate scorekeeping metric. The objective is to collect hasanat, good deeds. But they're not just, nice gestures. They are the measurable, quantifiable, and most importantly, exportable output from your time in this simulation.
Exportable. That's the key word.
Every ethical choice you make, every time you choose patience over anger, honesty over deceit, that is a point being recorded to your permanent account.
Which means the value system inside the simulation is deliberately misleading. Here, we're taught to prioritize wealth, status, power.
Digital items.
Digital items that have zero value outside the game. They don't transfer.
Correct. The ultimate scoring system completely ignores the internal metrics of the simulation. It only tracks the things that define the character of the player. If the world is an illusion, Guru, then the only rational investment is in the non-material currency because it's the only one you can take with you.
And speaking of taking it with you, let's talk about the exit strategy, the game over.
Death, which is so often seen as the ultimate end, annihilation.
But in this model, it's just a transition.
It is nothing more than logging out of the current test. The avatar, the body, expires. The system reclaims its resources. But the player's consciousness, the soul, undergoes the return to base reality.
The afterlife.
Yeah.
The ultimate, non-simulated world.
And that moment of logging out is when the final data readout happens. The score is tallied. The Book of Deeds, which is your player's unique transaction history from the whole game, is presented.
This has to be the most actionable takeaway for anyone listening. This realization should dramatically shift where you focus your energy and investment.
Absolutely. The whole point is explicitly not to hoard the digital items. You don't get to take the fancy car or the big house with you when you log out. That's all temporary code.
So the real goal, the true objective, is to level up the character, but not the avatar.
The soul. You're preparing the soul for the permanent reality that comes next. The quality of that soul, measured by its integrity and its accrued hasanat, is the only thing that has value across both realms.
This brings us back to the psychological impact. Realizing this world might be a construct shouldn't lead to nihilism, to thinking, well, nothing matters because it's all fake.
It should lead to the exact opposite. It should compel you to take the game more seriously.
How so?
If you know with certainty that you are in a test and that your final grade on this test will determine your permanent, eternal future, you wouldn't waste a second. You would focus intently on every single choice, every ethical challenge, because they all contribute to your final score.
It gives everything a profound sense of purpose. Whether you get here through Bostrom's cold logic or ancient theology, the conclusion for how you should live is remarkably similar.
Invest in the non-material because the material is just temporary code. The ultimate value is found in the choices you make under the constraints of the simulation. That is the true test.
So we've reached the end of this incredible deep dive. We started with a core thesis. Are modern science and ancient religion just saying the same thing in different languages? Is simulation the modern word for creation?
And I think the parallels are just. They're too strong to be a coincidence. You have the external architect. You have the fixed code, which are the laws of physics. You have system optimization, like the observer effect. And you have that central critical dilemma of free will versus destiny,
Which is resolved by understanding the creator exists outside of linear time.
Both models force you to accept that your immediate reality is not the ultimate reality. It's a mediated experience governed by a higher intelligence and a fixed system.
And the final, undeniable synthesis is accountability. It doesn't matter if the architect is a programmer from the future or a divine creator from eternity. Both systems are built on one single premise.
That every action, every intention, every choice is being prominently recorded, logged in an incorruptible database that will never, ever be deleted. It's all there, waiting for the final review when your time in the system is up.
And that realization leaves us with a truly powerful and maybe chilling final thought from the source material, a reminder of the data readout that awaits every single player.
And the Book of Deeds will be placed, and they will find what they did presented before them.
That's it. The final judgment. The ultimate system review. What will your data readout show? Think about that as you continue to navigate this meticulously constructed reality. Thank you for taking this deep dive with us.
Thank you for sharing your sources. It's been a fascinating exploration of destiny and design.
We'll see you next time.